Now, I was going to ask you how your mum is too, Tony. How is she going these days?
She's great. She's about to hit the road. Well, she's just arrived in town today, having done a morning melodies in Geelong. But I wrote a show for her last year called The Times of My Life, which is her telling the whole story of her life. And we've got the film clips and all of those things. It's sort of a whole history of show business, basically. It's our whole family from the 30s through to now. And she's hitting the road with that next year.
So was she pleased with your judgment in terms of content, or did she have many additions or changes to make to that show?
No, we've always worked really, really well and really, really closely on projects that she invites me to be a part of. She does a lot of her stuff of her own.
Yeah.
But this one, I wanted it to be a theatre piece as opposed to her cabaret work. I said, no, this is our theatre piece that I want you to be able to do until the day you drop. And so she was quite happy for me to structure it, and yeah, she's thrilled. She's thrilled. And
I believe that show came about because she was feeling the ravages of old age slightly, is that right?
Well, yeah, I mean, she's 75 now. She has no compunction in me telling anybody that, but her voice is unchanged. It's sort of like Barbara Cook, who's 80 this year and still sounds exactly the way she did back in 1950. Mum's got blessed with that same thing. The voice is pretty much unscathed. Well, I mean, completely unscathed. So she can still get up and sing all those songs that she sang when she was in her 20s. And it's also that inspirational thing of, you were talking about icons. There's only a handful of those people still around who are still doing it. Sure. And it is an inspirational thing for kids to come and see the show and go, wow, I could still be, if I could work towards that and still be doing that, when I'm her age, that's a really exciting thing.
Now, your mum has done everything pretty much, but what really impressed me was when she played a lesbian witch in Number 96, circa 1972. Now, do you have any recollection as to whether she had any reservations about that role?
She was petrified because she had nude and she had to do a devil worshipping scene alone, naked, where she had to pray in front of an upside down crucifix and say the Lord's Prayer backwards. She was so frightened, and she on the day of the shooting, they even shot two versions of it. They shot one with a goat's head rather than the crucifix in case they got edited banned. And she had all her friends all around town saying the Lord's Prayer forward on the day of the shooting. Sort of like to counteract anything terrible that would happen. But she was more frightened of the nudity than anything because she'd just turned 40, I think, and she was also worried that all my mates at school were going to be seeing her bazookas. And so I remember the day it got shown, and I went in to school the next day, and all the kids at school said, "Sheldon, your mum's really hot." She was so relieved. All her fears about the devil worshipping went away. Just she knew that her breasts were perky. A pair of norks, pair of pert norks win the day.
Yeah, the dreaded nudity clause in that show. I mean, I talked to Hazel Phillips about her lesbian role in the show, and she wouldn't do the nude clause at all. You worked for Cash Harmon later, didn't you, in the unisexes?
Oh my God, yes.
I'm just wondering. I mean, they sort of tended to go for the trashy at the, for the thrill of it. Did you have any sort of experience of anybody in the unisexes getting upset about that?
No, because the unisexes was a 6 o'clock time slot.
Yeah.
So we were all pretty safe, and it was fairly racy that it was about a commune with men and women living together. And, the raciest thing that happened in that was that a man and a woman were sharing a room, and like at the end of the first episode, they got busted by the landlord. And of course, it turned out they were secretly married. But the thing was, I wanted desperately to do Number 96, because that to me was the pinnacle of show business. And I was 16 or something, 17, and I was offered a role, and it was in the final year of the show, and my agent wouldn't let me do it, and I said, why can't I be in Number 96? She said, darling, they turn everybody gay in that show. I said, no, my character's this boy from Wollongong, and he's a farm boy. No, darling, my agent said, they do it. And I remember going to Cash Harmon's offices, and they were having their Christmas party, and I barged in, the audacity of youth, and said, can you assure assure me that this role is, you know, up on the up and up. Yes, it'll all be fine. And I'm crying in my agent's office. She said, no, darling, I'm not going to let you do it. And it went to a boy called Stephen McDonald, I remember, and I sat clenched teeth watching Stephen McDonald do this role. And within 4 weeks, he was seduced by Joe Hasham.
Good old Joe. He got everybody on the other side of the fence, didn't he?
He did, and I think the boy jumped off a cliff or something. You know, the character, not Stephen McDonald.
That'd be right.
So my agent was right.
Now we're getting the wind up. Just very quickly, wanted to ask you, you met your partner Tony almost 20 years ago.
No, longer than that, 1979, 28 years we've been together.
Wow, that's something in terms of a showbiz relationship and a queer relationship.
Tony Taylor, he started off the Pram Factory down in Melbourne.
Yeah.
So he was in the original production of Don's Party and Toast to Melba and the Hills Family Show and all those iconic shows. And his first show in Sydney, he was brought up to do the Venetian Twins for Nimrod, and we've been together ever since. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, there must have been stresses in that time, were there?
Of course there are. It is extremely hard, and I think especially for gay people, it's extremely hard because you're not married, and it's you know, there's different pressures that, you know, go with two guys, especially two guys trying to make a living in a very competitive thing. We've overcome it, and we're happier than we've ever been. So I highly recommend it.
There you go, boys. It can happen.
It can happen.
Have you ever been involved in any activism, or have you done it through your acting work?
I've done it through my acting work. Yes, I've never had any problems with being gay, but I've always sort of just quietly got on with my life, really. But I think by playing the roles that I have, and you can do a lot of good through theatre, and even with Bernadette, I get mail from young gay guys saying, you know, there's a lot of positive stuff happening up on that stage that gives me a lot of reassurance.
Well, that'll get the word out more than a politician sitting there, won't it?
Yeah. So now if we can just get the politicians to come around with the equal rights thing, because it is terrifying to be, you know, in my 50s and having lived with somebody for nearly 30 years, and you have absolutely no rights and no acknowledgement of being a first-class citizen in this country. That it's terrible. It's terrible.
Indeed. I mean, I would imagine your mum, having been around showbiz people, you know, most of her life, would imagine she was fairly supportive when the time came for you to tell her?
Oh, absolutely. You know, and her only worry about Tony was that he wouldn't have any talent. You know, she just didn't want to bring somebody in the family who she was going to be embarrassed by. As soon as she saw him perform and saw that he's a wonderful writer, she embraced him with open arms, and they're at home right now, probably plotting some project together. Well,
he proved himself. He was worthy of the family.
He certainly did.
Well, Tony, look, I think you've got to be somewhere and to do something else.
I've got to go and put on my eyelashes and my corset.
Look, enjoy the season. You booked through to March, I think.
Through to March, and then we're getting kicked out of the theatre, so we can't extend past March. So yes, do come and see the show. You will regret it if you don't.
Well, I think you have truly deserved your iconic status. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Cheers.